A nearly 400-year-old Chinese mass murderer is making a dark return on Chinese social media as China is ravaged by constant massacres. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. And happy holidays. Are you looking for a holiday gift that's not made in China? How about a subscription to the new China Uncensored premium website? Our premium subscribers will get extra episodes not available anywhere else, plus exclusive live streams, plus a way to chat directly with me and the team, plus an ad-free experience for China Uncensored videos and the rest of our shows. So head over to ChinaUncensored.tv and click on gift cards, and you can gift, for example, a premium plan for the whole year, which saves 16% compared to a monthly plan. Whatever you end up buying this holiday season, buy something not made in China. Now on with the show. Chinese social media users often draw on China's past to describe the present. And with more than 5,000 years of recorded Chinese history, there's plenty of material to choose from. For example, many unemployed and struggling Chinese graduates have recently compared themselves to Kong Yiji, a fictional character from a well-known 1919 short story set in late 19th century imperial China, who carries himself like a scholar, but despite all his fancy education, he's unable to secure a position befitting his stature. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has also been compared to a host of Chinese historical figures, including Mao Zedong, the prominent warlord Yuan Shikai, who helped overthrow the Qing dynasty in the early 20th century, only to later declare himself emperor, and the Chongjun emperor of the Ming dynasty, whose lofty ambitions and growing paranoia led to a series of crackdowns and removals that contributed to the fall of the Ming and his own death in 1644. Of course, Xi Jinping would never do such things, which is why there was such a swift crackdown on such comparisons, with posts about the topic being quickly removed. In recent months, however, new comparisons with the late Ming era have started to surface on Chinese social media. They revolve around a figure named Zhang Xianzhong, who is popularly referred to simply as Xianzhong or Xian. Immediately following the death of the Chongjun emperor, China was thrown into chaos as a crowd of warlords and aspiring princes fought over the remnants of the Ming realm. Xianzhong was one of these warlords. He conquered the western province of Sichuan in 1644 and set up his base in the city of Chengdu, from where he set out to engage in an orgy of destruction and mass murder across the region. My least favorite type of orgy, by the way. He was already so bloodthirsty that after recovering from an illness, he gave thanks by having the feet of a large number of women cut off and divided into two large piles. The piles were then covered in oil and set on fire to act as what Xianzhong described as two heavenly candles. Man, I really hope heaven doesn't smell like burning corpse feet. Xianzhong's power and support quickly began to wane, though, and his enemies soon closed in on him. Yet even at the end, as he abandoned his base at Chengdu, he ordered several massacres to be carried out. I guess he wanted more candles. Dude, there are easier ways to create mood lighting. By the time he was captured and killed in 1646, his 2-year reign had been so devastating for Sichuan that the province had to be repopulated with people from elsewhere. Now, unsurprisingly, in the Chinese popular imagination, Zhang Xianzhong is today associated with senseless bloodlust. And recently, there have been so many massacres devastating Chinese cities that today's China has been likened to Xianzhong's reign. For example, at the end of October, 2 adults and 3 minors were wounded in a stabbing outside a top primary school in Beijing. 2 weeks later, a driver rammed his car through a crowd at a sports center in Zhuhai in southern China, killing 35 and injuring 43 in the deadliest such attack in recent Chinese history. And then, only a few days after, a former student of a vocational college in the eastern city of Wuxi went on a stabbing rampage at the college, killing 8 people and wounding 17. I see less daily violence in Grand Theft Auto. These attacks have been so devastating that even Xi has commented on them, and he usually never addresses such tragedies, mostly because he's usually too busy committing his own. He also took the opportunity to demand more control. There's the Xi we know and know. These attacks have shaken Chinese society to its core, with the savagery of the perpetrators being compared to the savagery of Xianzhong. But at the same time, the killings have led to a swell of discussions about common factors that drove both Xianzhong and the recent attackers to commit their atrocities. Discussions that have resulted in some very bleak descriptions of modern Chinese society, and probably a dip in the candle sales. As part of these discussions, an essay by the Chinese literary giant Lu Xun from 1933 has been shared widely on Chinese social media. In it, Lu argues that Xianzhong initially didn't have any desire to become a mass murderer, but with the 300-year-old Ming world unraveling and Xianzhong's allies suffering defeats across the country, his situation looked increasingly hopeless. Lu wrote that Xianzhong felt keenly that there was nothing left for him on this earth except to destroy what remained for others. A related sense of hopelessness has been spreading across Chinese society in recent years. You can tell you're not doing a great job running society when several people see a nearly 400-year-old mass murderer and think, this guy gets it. Today, for example, many Chinese citizens are in despair after buying and paying for homes that remain unfinished due to the massive property crisis that has enveloped the country since 2020 and caused some of China's biggest property developers to go under. You know you're screwed when the folks you bought your house from suddenly lose theirs. The property crisis has been a hard hit to a Chinese economy where the housing market accounted for as much as 29% of GDP before 2021. In fact, the Chinese economy has generally just not been able to stage a comeback after the country emerged from the government's draconian COVID lockdowns in 2023. Chinese youth unemployment has remained at historic highs since the pandemic. And it's likely to get worse next year as 12.22 million college students are set to graduate, a record high. It's like they're on a roller coaster that's suddenly run out of tracks, which also sounds like a roller coaster if it was built in China. The youth unemployment is so bad that some young people have decided to give up seeking a stable job and instead embraced their unemployed status, with one woman coming out as an unemployment influencer, charting her journey through long-term joblessness. She'll be the one influencer posting scantily clad pics because she can't afford clothes. At the same time, consumer spending is currently around 20% below the global average, as Chinese people are limiting their spending to instead save for badder times. Adding all this together, it's not surprising that a comprehensive study released earlier this year found that over the last 2 decades, Chinese people have generally stopped believing that the economic system works for them, believing instead that having success today increasingly comes down to things like connections and a rich family, which makes it sound like communism doesn't work. No, that can't be it. There's been so many successful examples, such as... Now, the Chinese government tries to keep all this gloom under lock and key, because suppressing your emotions is a great idea, and it's not like it ever boils over into violence like I just talked about. One of the top tasks of the government's army of censors is to make sure that Chinese social media are a place of positive energy. But even Chinese censors have come out saying things like, working hard gets you nothing in return, and there's no hope in this job, and all it can do is keep us from starving and help us get a foothold in a big city. Luckily, the sense of hopelessness in Chinese society doesn't mean that people are raising armies and clearing entire provinces of Chinese people, but it does seem to have something to do with the recent mass killings. The driver that killed 35 people in Zhuhai was reportedly in economic pain after a divorce settlement. The former student that killed 8 in a stabbing spree in Wuxi did so after failing to acquire his graduation certificate, on top of him being dissatisfied with the compensation he received during an internship. And in September, a worker stabbed 3 people to death at a shopping plaza in Shanghai after his employer had left him unpaid and eventually with few possessions remaining other than 2 knives. This obviously doesn't excuse these horrible actions, but they are an illustration of the established fact that hopelessness and depressed people are more likely to turn to violence. You don't hear about too many billionaires getting into fist fights. Well, except that one time Musk and Zuckerberg almost did. But with these killings happening over and over again, this Xianzhong-like behavior has become an integrated part of how Chinese people talk about reactions to the hopelessness and pressures of modern Chinese society. Some of it's been summed up in this dystopian chart that has been widely shared on social media platform Weibo. It basically portrays 5 ways to deal with the hardships of contemporary life in China. The first option is to simply accept your fate in Chinese society as nothing more than a resource for higher-ups to exploit as they see fit. The fact that we're able to see this means the censors definitely agree with it. The second option includes the first, but also involves trying to achieve success by accepting long hours of work for little pay in a job that you are overqualified for in the hopes that you will make it someday. In China, this is known as involution. In the West, we call doing the same thing and expecting different results insanity. So props on them for the optimism. The third option is to withdraw completely from the whole system, the lie flat movement, do nothing. You can also withdraw by running away, which is the fourth option, as in immigrating to another country. Just don't expect your friends who are lying flat to help you move. Lastly, those of which to completely break the chart go straight up, which is the Xianzhong way of violence. As one Weibo user put it in dark terms earlier this year, involute, lie flat, run, or xian. Seems like things are rapidly trending towards xian. However, discussions about modern China under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party being an exploitation machine that breeds mass murderers isn't exactly a narrative that the government wants to have trending out there. So obviously, statements and comments about this stuff are immediately taken down when spotted by censors, at least by the ones who haven't also given up. In fact, Xianzhong was one of the most censored words in 2021 and has remained so ever since. But for all the censored parallels that have been drawn between Xianzhong's world and today's China, the most striking is perhaps this one. All of Xianzhong's carnage was inflicted after a paranoid emperor that was out of touch with the times had been sitting on the throne for way too long and weakened the country with his incessant purges. Just throwing it out there to point out that maybe it's time for the CCP to move in a different direction on the chart in the near future. Or, don't. I'm sure that Xi's demand for even tighter control over Chinese society, coupled with deeper censorship, will turn out to be the solution to all of China's problems. Instead of clicking over the next video, head over to our new premium website at ChinaUncensored.tv. We have all sorts of perks for our paying subscribers, more than just episodes. There's a way to communicate directly with me and the team. And as I said, we have gift cards on sale now for the holidays. An annual plan to China Uncensored Premium will save you 16%. You can buy it for a friend, a loved one, everyone at your office, or you could just buy it for yourself, you beautiful, selfish bastard. Happy holidays. Go to ChinaUncensored.tv. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.